Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and we're back with Trees, the video game. We are here, of course, on the Iron Horseman Railway, unclearing, filling in the last sections with the sort of big scenery, so to speak. And then we're going to be doing some telegraph lines, and we're going to finish Providence, because that's one of the things I'm going to need done more quickly than others. The Mountain Division, which is what we worked on for the last two episodes, has been handed off to Jader for some bigger scenery work. And hold on. Anyways, I'm working on some Iron Horseman Chronicles stuff in the background, which is why I have to stop and type from time to time, because I'm trying to receive audio files from someone with really, really crappy hotel internet. And if any of you have had to deal with really, really crappy hotel internet before, well, it sort of fits in the name. Anyways, I started going about this really haphazardly and sort of, I wouldn't call it frantically, but it's just very, I had a lot of stuff to do, and it was, okay, let's throw trees everywhere. And even towards the end, I start putting out these very, very large, long splines, big swaths of trees. And sort of worked, more or less. So we have, I was working around the Pit of Death there. I thought I was going to diversify this a little bit more. Again, I don't put trees down in the valley. You'll see when we get over there. But I don't put trees down in the valley. And I put them pretty much anywhere else. Because, well, we'll sort out the fiddly bits later. But again, the trees are right now considered the big stuff. And I have said the Iron Horseman Chronicles may be one of the last maps I use Maple Beech Birch on, at least the tree spline, or tree splines in general, because I'm liking speed trees more and more, and they can be a little bit of a processor hog sometimes, but I've never really felt that so much, and the splines, despite the fact that they do cover a very large area, they'll get that way as well. Pretty quickly. Even towards the end of this episode, I started to feel the burn, so to speak. Try to... The files transferring while you're there. Again, sorry about that. It's the sort of thing where it's going to be coming out... This is coming out late because I was waiting for our voice actor to show up, and I couldn't take the 15 minutes to sit down and record this, because if he showed up during that, I might miss him. And again, I don't like to do this in multiple parts, because, you know, it's a 15-minute piece of video. For goodness sakes, I should be able to manage it. And not even video, piece of audio. Like, I could watch something else, or, you know, even listen to something else while I'm doing this, as long as you guys don't hear it. I just have to sit here and talk, and it really doesn't matter what I'm talking about, because nobody listens to me anyways, but I generally try to talk about the artistic value of Maple Beech Birch, of which there is none. So, I skip that subject and move on to the fact that I really hate grass, and when it comes time to place the 10,000 grass splines that we're going to need to fill in that valley there, I'm not going to be happy about it. Which is why I didn't do it this episode. This episode, instead, I just worked on trees, and then when I got distracted, when I finished this, I worked on other stuff, and I'm persistently paranoid that there is a section of trees somewhere that I forgot and missed. And I'll see it eventually and fix that. And there were a couple of spots that we catch when I was going back over with the telephone poles. Or telegraph poles, really. But other than that, there really wasn't much. So you use some very long splines here to sort of set the defining, whatever you call it. I can justify that by saying nobody's going to be looking out here, and I can also sort of mesh other splines into them to make sure that the trees don't look uniform. And that's really the biggest, that's one of the most important things for me, is making sure the trees and the terrain and everything like that, that it looks natural and not contrived. You know, it's not maple, beech, birch, maple, beech, birch. It's maple, maple, beech, maple, birch, birch, beech, birch, maple, beech, maple, birch. You know, it's a random order that doesn't really matter. Oh, sorry, game locked up. Don't panic. Alright, moving on. About a minute and counting until we move on to other things that aren't maple, beech, birch, except when I started the second segment, I did do a little bit of tree fixing, and then I go into building telegraph poles, which took me a surprisingly long time. Although, I was kind of hoping, like, you know, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do telegraph poles, and I hope this takes the entire time, because I don't have inspiration to do anything else right now. There are other areas of the map that I probably should be working on, but they're connected to things that other people currently are working on. For example, Weibald's Narrow Gauge, or Jader's Mountain Division. And I say Jader's in air quotes because it wasn't originally all his job. In fact, none of it was originally his job, but he gets stuck with the jobs that nobody else either wants to or can do. And the reason is because he's really, really good at it. And the rest of us, not so much in a lot of cases. Also, there's a little song that we like to go by for him and Milky as well. It goes a little something like, "Too much time on my hands." And that fits him quite well. And he puts a lot of that time towards working on the trains routes, and frankly, he comes out with some really impressive stuff. Every time I've handed him something to work on, I've gotten it back as, you know, wow, you knocked that out of the park. Except for the original Davenport, but he's realized that it's scrubby. Which is why we have the replacement, and he's even replaced it on his own route. Alright, so here we go. I think we're going to work on the telephone poles now. We start from here, and you'll notice I'm trying not to put the poles into anything except for the stations. Including trees, I might add. So that's why I'm dodging back and forth across the line, and honestly, I find it kind of not interesting, but it's going to be cool to run where you can see the lines going over your head again and again. So, I run off down here. There's some power poles that don't, or not power poles. I'm speaking like Zisto or Vex. There's some stuff that didn't have anything. Okay, I had a problem with these, and that's that the poles don't have a bottom. I was trying to rest them on the bridge, and it wouldn't let me do it. So I just had to make it look like they're sort of embedded in the bridge. Sort of. So I run it through this field, and this is kind of indicative of the fact that we'll be getting... Okay, that was to make sure there was clearance. I'm doing stuff too quickly for me to actually commentate on it. That's the problem with 8 times speed. You get so much done in a little amount of time. Anyways, we got lots of... I was trying to make sure I didn't put any poles directly on the track, and in fact I was trying to keep them adjacent to the roadbed by a significant amount. I was also trying to make sure I didn't put any trees in the... Didn't put any... Well, trees too, but poles in the water, because I just feel like I wouldn't... I feel like it's a bad idea. Alright. Anyways, so, coming along here, and I I need to rework the textures there a little bit. But, again, I kept the poles out of the water. And even there, too, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to there, because that river is pretty wide. I got the smaller poles to run down to the pit of death here, with the trees closing in pretty significantly. Again, it's going to be an interesting ride. I can't wait to do it. Although that's going to be in a little while, because the next run session, which is a few episodes out, is on the Hazel and Northeastern, which is TBA's route. And we'll see how that place is, and I haven't really looked at it yet, but I have one of the really early copies. Not quite sure what I'm going to do. Probably pensify it first, although it does have dartboards already. It's sort of a backwoods, short line, branch line route. So, we'll see how that turns out. Anyways, that's not the focus of today's episode, though. Today's episode is things made of wood, for example, trees and power poles. I find it very easy to string this in the middle of the road and the rails here, and I was trying to be very careful not to put the poles on anything. And then I ran it into town and went, wait, that's stupid, it should run beside the road. And then the game locked up. So I had to run it without putting any poles on the road or anything. I had to run it on the thing. Anyways, so I've started replacing the switch stands as well. The interesting thing about that is I had to make the decision, I had to make the executive decision as to which way was supposed to be sort of the main line and which one was the diverging route and which one wasn't. And for some of these it was pretty easy, but some of them it was like, okay, I think it's this one. But, I know it's going to be troublesome for me to, or rather it would be without the Switch UI. But thank goodness for that, right? Should have worked more over here. That's one of the things where if I want to do some interesting scenery, it's going to be over there. And the next couple of minutes of this episode are grass, and I'm not sure if you saw me do the grass for Lee's line, but it's the same deal. I put down one shade, one spline, and then I go over it with the other one. Except for the middle area where I only use one, even though I could probably use one or two more. In Troy, there's a sort of good precedent for using the different kinds of grass splines in an urban environment. At least for me, because it's not really that intricate. Anyways, so we come over it just to, and of course I'm only putting it at the edge of the woods, because if you're looking from track level or even close to, I tried to fit that for some time before giving up. If you're looking at track level or close to, it's not really going to matter what's way deep in the woods. And as much as I'd like to grass the whole thing, because, what part of the woods doesn't have foliage? That would just be, it would A, be a time suck, and B, be a computer killer. I do have some roads out there that don't run to anything, well, so to speak. They run to the edge of the map. And that's because, again, I felt like the world needed to be populated. There were a couple of things in the Timberwolves Vale and Anaconda where it was just like, oh, nobody's going to look at this section, I'm not going to put mountains here. Well, no, that was a mistake, and I don't like it. So, I'm going to, if I have a baseboard, I'm going to completely fill it in. And I tried to keep at least one baseboard between the edge of the map and the track. So that, you're never really looking off the edge of the map. And that's important, honestly, to me. You can't see the edge of the map or anything like that. And I couldn't, for the life of me, get the trees to sprout leaves. I have it set to, July 3rd, and all of the trees are dead like it's winter. So I'm just going to hope that in the scenario, they come out to being not dead. And this is me, the rest of this episode is me scrolling through menus and going, please tell me that this does what I want it to do. And it just wouldn't do it. So, I know I've been able to do it before, but this just wasn't cooperating. It was set to July 4th. I don't know why. Anyways, Trayman out.